Hi everyone, it's Ian here from IBI Performance Coaching, and today I'm going to be talking about the only solution you'll ever need to the only problem you'll ever have. If you pay close enough attention, you'll realize that the problems that we encounter in life are always the interaction between two vectors. The vector that people pay the most attention to is the external manifestation of events, the situation in which you find yourself. Say, you're in a traffic jam, that sort of thing, right? That's the external. That's one of the vectors. The other vector, though, is what you are bringing to that situation, the abilities, the capabilities that you're bringing to that situation. And so the problem really is the interaction between the circumstances in which you find yourself and the capabilities that you're bringing to those circumstances. And a problem is when there's a mismatch. More specifically, when the capabilities you bring are not sufficient to address the circumstances in which you find yourself. So there's a paucity, a lack of capability on your part. And that's the only time. So something like a traffic jam can be a problem, but it can also be an opportunity to have an important conversation with the person sitting next to you, or to listen to an audiobook that you've been waiting to spend time with, or whatever it might be. You get the point. And that would largely depend upon your ability to accept the situation and to pivot to the next best option, which is a capability that you can develop. Now, having said that, I'm not necessarily suggesting that the real solution here is that you just develop your abilities and then your problems will go away. Life has a way of providing you with bigger challenges as you become more capable. And would you want it any other way? Because if you didn't have challenges that were up to your current abilities or exceeding those current abilities, what would be the impetus to continue improving? What would be the means by which you continue to improve? Life is a bit like a trainer that provides us with progressive overload for our human capacities, whether we want it or not. But there is one thing that you can change, really at a whim, whenever you want to, that can not so much solve problems, but dissolve problems, as in they stop being problems. And that is the level of consciousness that you bring to the circumstances in which you find yourself. Now, that phrase, level of consciousness, might not be something that you are familiar with, but I would posit that we all have an intuitive sense of levels of consciousness. When you get pissed off and yell at another driver because they honked at you because you were looking at your phone when the light turned green, or when you lose your temper with your kids over some perceived slight or them not listening to your instructions quickly enough, well, clearly you're operating at a lower level of consciousness. At the same time, if I asked you to switch your state into a higher level of consciousness now, 3, 2, 1, I bet you could do it. I bet you could do it. I bet you could feel as though you were almost climbing a ladder inside your consciousness to a higher place, a higher perspective from which to see things, a more encompassing perspective, but at the same time, probably a more grounded perspective as well. So we have this intuitive sense. It's available to any normally functioning human being. And what's really important to know is that the challenges that we face are always, well, they're functionally limited. The degree of challenge that you might face in the world is limited by the physics of the world in which we exist, right? Something like getting honked at is relatively minor, but getting a cancer diagnosis, right? This is a much higher level challenge. Finding yourself in the middle of an ongoing natural disaster, higher level challenge. But there's still a limit to how challenging circumstances can be. Consciousness, on the other hand, levels of consciousness are practically unlimited. There is always a level of consciousness that you can switch to that will make whatever circumstances you find yourself in cease to be a problem. It will dissolve the problem and turn it into something that is a challenge that can be engaged with forthrightly and even enjoyably. It'll turn it into something that you can find amusement with. And this is one reason why you can either, very often in life, you can either get angry or you can laugh. You can either, get depressed, get sad, get despondent, or you can laugh. Laughter, finding the funny, finding the amusing in life, is a superpower that you can develop, but it's also something that's readily available should you choose to activate it. Okay, so shorter one today. Still, I hope that this is a helpful idea and that you'll keep it in mind when you find yourself getting upset or stumped or dealing with something that feels like it's overwhelming or it's a problem. The first step shouldn't always be, well, it definitely shouldn't be, what are you doing to me? Oh, life is so unfair, or sort of this victimization mindset, this mindset that you are entitled to a different set of circumstances is not helpful at all. So we're going to avoid that altogether. The next stop you might go to would be, what do I need to learn or how do I need to improve in order to deal with this? What actions do I need to take? And that is not a bad stop to spend some time at. And in fact, we're going to go there. But the first stop I would suggest is always to ask what level of consciousness you're operating from and what level you had better operate from if you want to cease to see the problem as such and instead see it as an invitation, see it as a welcome challenge, or see it as a source of amusement provided to you by a universe that has a sense of humor. All right, thank you so much. Check out the programs down below, the Facebook group, that kind of stuff if you're interested. I really appreciate everybody who supports the challenge, the channel, in all the ways that you know how. And just remember that elite performance is nothing more than a choice that you get to make right now or anytime. So what's stopping you from making it? Thanks.